Our town has a beautiful library that is considered safe for kids, but it isn't always. When I was 14, I volunteered at our library over the summer. I liked it because I got to read stories to the little kids who came in for story time, and helping them find books in the children's room was rewarding for me. I also did mundane stuff like reshelving books. Most returned to the correct location, but I couldn't promise I was that good. But I did do my best. My volunteer schedule was pretty relaxed. 3 to 6 weekdays and noon to 3 on Saturdays, mainly for the children's reading program and story time for the little kids. This chilling nightmare began on a Saturday after most of the kids had left the library. I was reshelving books that had become a massive pile on the floor where the kids read, sitting in beanbag chairs. The children's library was empty except for me, and the library was to close at 4, about 30 minutes off, when a man in his 30s came in. He was perhaps a father looking for his child, but all the children had already left. The man approached me and gave me a big smile. He wasn't tall and he had a big belly which made him kinda jovial, like a young Santa with a scraggly beard. I said he looked 30, but that was hard to judge for a 14-year-old. He could have been 40 for all I knew. So he approached me and asked if all the children had left. I said yes. The rule was that all children had to stay in the children's room until a parent took them out. So all the children had left with a guardian that signed them out. Well, he stood there and began to make small talk with me about how cute the kids were when they were scattered about the floor reading their books on the crazy beanbags. Such a 70s thing, he said, laughing. I told him again that the kids were all out, but some could still be out in the reception checking books out still. He just went on saying things like, "You're adorable. I love your hair. You have a beautiful smile." I didn't want to be rude and simply replied, "Thank you. I still have work to do, so please excuse me." He left the area, but 10 minutes later showed up again, which was really strange since all the children had left and I had already told him so. He said he just came to say he was leaving and wanted to say goodbye. He gave me a little pat on my back that seemed friendly but weird at the same time. I didn't know if the guy was a creep or just a really nice man looking for his child. However, 2 weeks later, I got my question answered. I was working on a Thursday afternoon and steering a trolley of books to be reshelved in the reading room. Big, overstuffed armchairs are in the reading room for people to get comfortable and read. While passing by the chairs, I looked over and saw the same man from the children's library, and we made eye contact. I didn't try to. It was just that he was staring at me, and it happened. I looked in the other direction as quickly as possible. Still, he was already getting up from the chair and heading in my direction. I dreaded his approach, but I knew the library asked all staff to greet guests and treat them courteously. So, as he stepped my way, I said, "Hello, is there anything I can help you with?" I didn't want to help him, but I felt it was my job. He came close and said quietly, "How are you, darling? I've been watching you for the last couple of weeks, and you are an excellent worker. I come every day to see you because you are so beautiful." I became instantly uncomfortable, but there was nothing I could do but smile and say thanks. I quickly added that I had a lot of books to shelve, so please excuse me. He stood in my way and asked, "What about the two of us spending time together after work?" I about retched angrily. I said, "I am only 14. My parents require that I come straight home after work." He immediately said, "Fine, I'll drive you." I said, "No thanks." I wasn't afraid, just mad, so I continued to give him a little of my mind and told him I thought it was creepy that an old man would even say such a thing to a kid. He then stepped aside and let me continue my work. I was hoping this message got through to him and this would be the end of this guy. The very next day, he was again in the library. He was at one of the computer terminals in the media room this time. There are glass windows between the media room and the library stacks, so the library is visible from the media area. He was already eyeing me from behind the computer screen when I saw him. He was pretending to be working on the internet, but I saw he was locked onto me. He wasn't smiling this time and gave me a terrifying vibe. It was super creepy. I completely disregarded him and went to another library area to work. At closing, I went out front and waited for my mother to pick me up as she did every day. She was always there waiting for me, but occasionally, she would be a couple of minutes late. When she was late, I'd sit on the stone wall under a tree near the entrance to the library. I was daydreaming on the wall when I saw the gross man leave the library. I shrunk, leaning back into the tree, trying to become invisible, but as luck would have it, he saw me and sauntered over. He wasn't the jolly old Saint Nick from the children's room, but a grumpy old man. He barraged me.
"What are you doing? And why are you sitting there?"
I said. "I'm waiting for my mom. She will be here soon." He forcefully grabbed my arm and pulled me off the wall. He twisted my arm, making me walk toward a white van in the parking lot. I was doing everything I could to resist, but the arm twist was painful. I heard a car horn blaring as he pushed me toward the van. It was my mom as she pulled into the library drive. She was driving directly at me and honking the car horn repeatedly. The stalker saw her too and thrust me aside, sprawling me onto the parking lot pavement. He jumped into the van and tore out of the parking lot. My mom jumped out of her car and ran to me as I lay crying. She called the police, and they sent out a description of the van and cornered him just a few blocks away, hiding in a McDonald's restaurant parking lot. He was arrested for attempted kidnapping and child endangerment. Shortly after, he disappeared and has never been seen again in our area. For a 13-year-old girl, life can be filled with scary men eyeing her. It's difficult to walk alone without some creep saying, "Hey baby, want some of this?" Or even worse, reaching out and touching you. The fear of kidnap is always present. I'm not particularly pretty. I don't have a figure. I'm what they call a late bloomer. I don't dress provocatively. I'm pretty much just an average, ordinary 13-year-old girl. I love to be active and out and about, especially on Saturdays. I'm talkative, friendly, and confident. I am not a shy kid. The area of the city I live in is pretty nice with coffee shops, ice cream shops, an activity center, and an incredible library. It's not Leave It to Beaver prudish or Mayberry Andy Griffith polite. Those old TV shows would be laughed at here. It's a nice place to live with all kinds of people, mostly good except this day. I had gone out for a walk with the idea I'd go to the library and read for a while, and then see if any of my friends were over at the ice cream parlor where we hung out on Saturdays. They had video games and a foosball table which we spent hours on, kind of a beer pool hall for kids. Walking down the sidewalk, I wasn't paying much attention to anything, just enjoying the day. I was inside my head singing Adele and dancing with my arms outstretched when a man in his 40s said, "Hey there, pretty." I said, "Hey" back and gave a smile. It's not often someone calls me pretty. I guess I was a little flattered. However, as I passed him, he gave me this leering look that was so uncool. It wasn't kind. It was actually haunting, and I felt a malevolence. I crossed the street just to put some distance between us quickly. He never took his gross eyes off me. As I walked to the library faster, he followed me on the other side of the street. I felt unsafe until I was inside the library and picked a book from the book stacks to read. But my terror was just to begin. The book stacks are in the back of the library, with only small aisles between them. The room is large, with maybe 20 book stacks. It is windowless and humidity controlled. I was back there by myself hunting books, adventure books by Clive Cussler, and found one I hadn't read. But as I came off the C-stack to the central corridor, it was blocked by that scary creep. I was exasperated with this man and being bold, I said in a flippant voice, "What do you want?" He doesn't answer and continues to block the aisle. I stepped forward and he said, "I love pretty girls like you." It wasn't a compliment, and I knew I was in trouble, trapped in the back of the library stacks with no one else around. I say again, let me pass. I'm only a kid. Don't you know I'm only 13? He smirks with that evil smile and says, "Yeah, and that's what I like best." I shouted at him, "You're a disgusting creep. Get out of my way." That made him angry, and he grabbed me and pushed me back into the corner. I kicked him as hard as I could, bit his hand holding my arm, and twisted as fast as I could to break free and run down the aisle to the main reception of the library, screaming for help. 2 librarians came running, asking if I was okay. I told them that a horrible man had attacked me in the stacks. While I'm explaining to the librarians, and as they call the police, the man escapes through a side door and disappears. The police came, and I described the man and told them I had bitten his right hand and it probably had teeth marks. My dad came and picked me up and took me home. As far as catching the man, nothing ever came of it. He disappeared, and I hope he stays away. But I am forever looking over my shoulder and only enter a room with someone knowing where I am. Child trafficking is a worldwide crisis. It can happen anywhere. When I was a small child, about 20 years ago, my mom would take me to the library to educate me. let me have fun in the children's room, and for her to meet up with her friends and chat. It was just as much a time for her to relax with me in a safe place, or so it seemed to be a safe place until one day. Mom brought me and my sister to the library on a Saturday morning, as we did most Saturdays. Other kids were there, and their moms were as well. I was 5 or 6 when this scary story took place. We arrived, and my sister and I went to the kids section. We both found a book and looked at the pictures for a while. I wanted Mom to read a story to me, so I went back into the central part of the library to find Mom. She and 2 other moms were chatting in the coffee shop connected to the library. I went in and sat on one of the chairs and listened to them talking for about 10 minutes. Then I got bored and went exploring the library. The library seemed really big to me when I was little, and it was very mysterious, with vast rooms of book stacks and study cubicle on 3 floors. There is a media center with rows of computers and lots of people. There were conference rooms and offices for people doing academic research, whatever that was to a little kid. To make a long story short, I got lost, and I couldn't find my way back to my mom. So I decided to stay where I was and let Mom find me. I sat on the floor, and these big picture books were right in front of me. I pulled one out with pictures of dogs, opened the cover, and happily began paging through the book. I was totally into the book when I got a tap on my shoulder. I thought it was Mom, and I said, "Look at these dogs, Mom, aren't they cool?" But when I turned around to show her, it wasn't her. It was some woman. She wasn't ancient but old to me, and she looked pretty nice, not disheveled or anything. She asked me where my mother was, and I told her I didn't know. She smiled and said that's what I thought. She lied and said your mother's been looking for you and is in the car, ready to leave. So put the book away and come with me. I believed her without question. She was an adult, and I thought she worked in the library, so I did what she said without question. She took my hand, and we walked down the steps to the first floor and out the front door. "Come this way," she said, leading me to the parking lot where I expected to see my mom. And when I asked, "Where's Mom?" she said, "Over this way, come." We got halfway through the parking lot, and she put her hand gently on my shoulder and pointed. "She's right over there." I was confused because I didn't see her, and I looked up at her, and she said, "Just wait 1 minute." Then a car pulled up in front of us, and she opened the back door and lifted me up, and before I could say anything, she slammed the door and jumped into the passenger seat. There was some man I'd never seen before driving, and he said,
Shut up, kid, sit, and I won't have to hurt you.
He took off quickly, and we were going somewhere I had no idea. I was really scared and started to cry. I asked the woman where we were going, and she said, "Shut up." And the man said, "I told you once, I won't tell you again. Shut your face." I don't know how long I was in that car, but it felt like a long time. Then I heard a siren behind us, and the man slowed down and pulled over. The woman told me to pretend to be her son and I wouldn't get hurt. But as soon as we stopped, 2 more police cars surrounded the car, and a policeman shouted, "Out of the car, hands raised." A friend of my mom's at the library saw the woman put me into the car and called the police. She was able to describe the vehicle and had memorized the license plate. I was fortunate to be returned to my mom. The man and woman were arrested as part of a nationwide child trafficking ring.